Welcome to Faith in 5, a weekly video devotional designed to discuss practical spiritual concepts in 5 minutes or less. I'm your host, Mark Vandellen. I've heard a lot of fun stories about the offering pot, the offering plates, whatever it is that people pass or set out to collect at church. You know, I've heard jokes about people, they always say, yeah, well, seems like every time it comes past me, I have to tie my shoe, right? So they look down and it goes past them. Or I actually just sat in church with a family friend who shared that the first time they went to a church that passed a plate, she could see her two sons, Connor and Cameron. It was almost like she could see their eyes just get huge when they're staring at a plate full of money. And she knows that going through her head is, I love this church. They're giving free money, right? So she quickly reached over and grabbed it and said, that's not for you, and passed it on. But we have these fun stories around giving at church, but I think it's also fair to acknowledge that sometimes giving at church, or at least churches, have done some damage there. I've actually heard stories of churches that require a certain dollar amount to become a part of their congregation. It's not necessarily a percentage. It was an actual dollar amount. And so at that point, again, they're outside of what God is after anytime he talks about money, anytime he talks about these commandments, right? He's after what's in our heart. And so that church at that moment is not after this person's commitment to the church. They're actually then after money. And so we've done a lot of really hard things, a lot of really bad things, but there's also a lot of fun things that we can share. That brings me to the 8th commandment. The 8th commandment is, thou shalt not steal, right? Do not steal. Now, it's odd that I would talk about giving, but the reason I started there is because stealing is the opposite of giving, right? You're just taking. You would be taking from somebody else, or at the very least, taking something that is not yours, right? And so the problem with it in Exodus 20:13 is when it says, do not steal. It's almost like God's saying, look, you spend so much time gathering your stuff, gathering your money, that you protect it. You hold it all so tight. And you start looking around at what other people have, and you want what you don't have. Right? Sometimes the stealing actually equals a mentality, a scarcity mentality. See, we think that either somebody else has more or better than us, or there's just something else out there for us to take. And so with that heart, it basically is communicating either a lack of trust in God, or it communicates that we are focused on ourselves. And so stealing does one of those two things. Either we don't trust God enough to provide, or we think that we can do it ourselves and that we have to just kind of run around and gather as much as we possibly can because it all is on us. It's a lot like the example in the Sabbath of people who are gathering and not trusting God with their time. This stealing is not trusting God with your provisions, your resources, your time, and your money. See, 2 Corinthians 9:6-11, it talks about a farmer, and it says a farmer who plants little will have little crop. So a farmer who takes little, invests little, or maybe even a farmer who keeps some seed for the rainy day, so to speak, is going to have little. But the one who plants a lot of seed with great expectation is going to have a lot. See, the one prepares for a rainy day by keeping seed. The other one spreads seed everywhere and prepares for a rainy day because they expect the rain to water their crop. See, it goes on to say that God delights, like before entering into a relationship, you should decide how much you're going to give, right? When you're thinking about the farmer. And it says that God delights in the one who gives freely, who gives happily. Don't do so. It even says specifically, do not do so out of guilt, because that would be similar to stealing. Your heart is still in a place of protecting your own efforts and scarcity mentality. God wants us to have an abundance mentality, because God, if you empty out your bucket, God can fill it back up as fast as possible. So when you consider the don't steal commandment, also consider the things that God provides, the abundance that comes with God, and consider how you can spend your time and your money in ways that promote God, that show that you trust God with your life and with your abundance. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to follow us each week, click here to subscribe. And if you want to take it a little bit further, click here for discussion materials.